energy costs drive everything. They drive their transportation, they drive their food costs, they drive their heating costs. And the best thing you can possibly do for poor people over any reasonable span of time is to drive energy costs down to the lowest possible level. And that's a great way of combating the moralism of the left. It's like, you guys, you've already shown your colors. You're perfectly willing to sacrifice the poor to not save the planet. It's a very bad strategy. I think the NDP is weak on the federal front too, because maybe you can clue me in on this a bit. I do not understand Jagmeet Singh. So here's a proposition for you. So this is a man who wants to run for the leadership of the country, in principle. And he essentially established a coalition government with the Trudeau Liberals, who wouldn't be able to hold on to power without them. And he didn't even negotiate to get a cabinet seat, even though what he produced was essentially a coalition. So you have a man who is so unable to govern that he couldn't even get himself a seat at the table for the price of selling his soul to the Liberals. And he's the leader of the Socialists in Canada. Now, can you explain any of that to me? For the life of me, I can't understand what the hell's motivating him. And I cannot understand what that means for the Socialists and the NDP.
I think that there's a story that the Socialists tell themselves, that the last time they were most effective in getting their agenda passed was when there was a minority Liberal government and they had the balance of power. I think that's when the pension came in, or there's certain things that they believe that they take credit for because they formed the balance of power at that time. So I think they believe it's enough to just have that threat of being able to call an election at any time. I think it's even worse for my opponent, Rachel Notley, because as you know, since you were involved in NDP politics, you don't actually buy a membership in the federal NDP. You buy a membership in the provincial NDP, which gives you your membership in the federal NDP. They're embedded. And I don't know how in the world she's going to run a campaign saying, yeah, my federal leader is in this partnership with Justin Trudeau, and both of them are taking actions that are damaging Alberta. I don't think that's a very strong position for her to be in. So I'm sort of mystified about why she's walking in lockstep in supporting that agenda, which is stopping our development, and that agenda, which is raising the price of everything. So I don't pretend to understand the world of socialism. The one thing I do understand is that I think that this is probably the most left-wing Liberal government we have ever had. And so maybe they should have a formal coalition. I got accustomed to seeing more moderate Liberals in those positions in the past, like Jean Chrétien and Paul Martin, which ran balanced budgets and surpluses and helped to develop the economy. I mean, a Liberal who wants us to do well so they can steal our wealth is a Liberal government I can understand. Like, let's scrap over who gets to the benefit of the wealth creation. A Liberal who wants to destroy wealth creation and then think that you can have phony wealth creation by printing money is somebody who I simply don't understand. But that might explain why the two of them are actually more in lockstep than you might have thought, is because I think foundationally they just believe in central government planning, central government decision-making, central bureaucrats making all of the decisions, printing money, and everything will be fine. I think they have a foundational hostility towards free enterprise.
If the Liberals are already doing that, why the hell have an NDP at all?
Completely.
And I mean, that's got to be the question that's on the minds of thoughtful Canadians, I would presume, when they're looking at the current situation, is that if the Liberal government is so aligned with the NDP that it isn't even useful for the NDP to oppose them, which seems to be the case, and to really require no commitment from the Liberals for doing so, then the party's superfluous. And you saw what happened in the Ontario election. I mean, the NDP got obliterated, and I think that's a big part of the reason. And I don't know how Rachel Notley is going to justify her alliance with Singh, given precisely what you said. And it's especially the case when, as far as I can tell, there's zero evidence whatsoever that the green, higher energy cost agenda has done anything but harm the environmental outlook. And we're going to see a lot more of that making itself well. And look at what it did with regards to precipitating a war between Russia and Ukraine. That's also something, an impossible to win war. That's also something that beggars the imagination.
Far be it for me to give advice to the NDP, but let me tell you what they have done. They've really cannibalized their own base of support, because the NDP used to be the party of the working person. They used to be the party of labor. They used to be the party of the blue collar guys and gals, and they're not that anymore, because every single time a resource project comes up, they end up taking the opposite position. They take a position that makes it more difficult to get those projects approved. They take the environmental position, which actually sacrifices all of those building trades workers who would be commissioned to build those pipelines and build those projects. So this is I think the fundamental insight that Doug Ford had, is that that is a pool of voters that are no longer represented by the left. And so he's reached out his hand and said, come and join the Conservative Party. We want you to have a good paying job. We want you to take care of your family. We want you to feel secure. We want you to be proud of your industry. And that's what we're saying as well. I can't imagine why anybody in one of those resource sector jobs, one of those blue collar trades, I can't imagine why they would vote for such an extreme green agenda that's being manifest in the NDP party, and especially with that partnership with the Liberals. So I think that they have created an opportunity for us as Conservatives, and we just have to make sure that we're addressing those issues in a meaningful way. And I think we are. I think we're beginning to understand that we've got to speak more broadly about those aspirational issues.